What's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul with Liberty Hill Comics. The channel is where I share my passion and knowledge on comic book collecting, investing, and conservation with you. And today we're going to begin our wet cleaning and chemical stabilization process on this copy of America's Best Comics number 12 from January of 1945. If you recall from episode 1, we've already completed an assessment and developed a game plan for this book, and we documented our starting point. In episode 2, we did our dry cleaning and disassembly, and we found that we had some glue holding this cover and the first wrap together here. Today we're going to work on separating the cover and the first wrap and beginning the wet, clean, and chemical stabilization steps. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate all the viewers, but especially those that take the time to like, subscribe, and comment on the video. If you want to try any of these processes out and need to purchase supplies, please use the Amazon affiliate links in the video description. You'll get the best materials and tools that I know of for the job, and you'll help the channel out. Before we get started, a real quick primer on de-acidification. De-acidification of paper is a very important step toward preserving comic books for the long term. The first documented de-acidification bath for the purposes of preservation of paper was reported to have happened in 1890 in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, which continues to this day to be one of the leading centers for paper conservation and preservation. But paper de-acidification likely occurred earlier than that first documented occurrence, so it's been practiced for at least 125 years. The definitive modern work was done by Margaret Hay and published mostly in the 70s and 80s, and it's her work that I reference most often. Today, we're going to be using my photo development tray. These are nice because you can open a Golden Age comic book wrap completely up and lay it flat. They have a low edge so you can see your work and you can work comfortably on the paper. You can get light really close to the paper for photo bleaching if need be. And in the bottom of the tray, I've placed some Rime paper. Rime paper is just non-woven polyester substrate, and that's to support our work because wet paper is weak and we don't want to damage either of these pages today while we're working on them. Onto the Rime paper, I've placed our pages, and I have them opened up so that I can see this area where the paper's been joined by the glue, and I can work on it if need be. Today, we're going to use a simple half-saturated solution of calcium hydroxide shown to be most effective by Hay in her groundbreaking paper of 1979. This is easily mixed up by putting about 2 grams of calcium hydroxide into a liter of water, mixing it up, allowing it to settle, and then mixing the supersaturated solution with water in a 1-to-1 ratio that makes a 50% calcium hydroxide bath, which is approximately 0.8 grams calcium hydroxide per liter of water. The pH of this solution is approximately 12, and it is safe for comic book paper and ink as long as you limit total time exposure. 30 minutes is the recommended time for de-acidification. The solution provides a very mild bleaching action and will also provide an alkaline reserve for the paper once we draw the water out, because the calcium hydroxide reacts with CO2 and air to leave a calcium carbonate buffer behind embedded within the paper. To this solution, I've added 0.5% by volume of Triton X100. Triton X100 is a non-ionic surfactant that will act as a mild detergent for us here and help remove any soiling that would otherwise be either non-soluble or only mildly soluble in our aqueous solution. I'm using it here especially because I think it may be effective in helping us with this glue. This is my solution, and I'm also using it mixed with warm water, again because I think it may help us with this glue. We went over this before, but when I apply these solutions, I want to apply them sort of rapidly to all of the paper at once so that we don't create any opportunities for tide lines in the paper. This solution is nominally crystal clear, but I think it was just a little bit cloudy because I recently mixed a new solution of calcium hydroxide up for myself. I'm just going to go ahead and flatten the paper in these areas where we have some flaps, just out of habit. As I mentioned, this solution is quite safe, so I'm comfortable putting my hands in it. I'm very gently opening the pages up and making sure that they're well saturated here. I'm going to already start probing this edge to see if this paper wants to come apart. I'm going to be very gentle in that process. Our hope is that this glue will just let go of the paper in this aqueous bath. And we'll see whether or not we get our wish. That's looking promising, although I'm not 100% sure that was an area that was tightly glued. So let's just very gently probe it and see what happens. There's a piece that looks like it doesn't want to come free. So it looks like we have here, and I mentioned that this might be the case earlier, this has already been separated from here. So this is this paper right here. This is basically half a thickness of paper, and it's been pulled from this area right here. Now, if we can remove it from this inner wrap, then we could affix it back into that space as part of our mending. And I think that would be our ideal outcome here. We don't need it. We can mend this area without it, but it certainly would be better if we can put it there. Failing that, I'd like to get it off of the surface here. And failing that, at least we'll get these two pages separated, which I think is probably accomplishable right now already. If we're willing to just force the issue on this tiny little spot right here, I think we could already separate these two wraps. Before I do that, I'm going to let it soak a little while longer, and I can occasionally rock the tray to get a little bit of convective flow in addition to the diffusion that's occurring with the surfactant and the solution, the aqueous solution right now. I'm going to let this set a little while longer, and then we'll check in on it in a few moments. Okay, this is sat for approximately 5 minutes now. I do think we're getting some separation here, but again, it's not entirely clear to me if this is just an area that didn't have glue on it before, or if we're genuinely getting the glue lifting here. I do think what I want to do right now, because mostly we have, as I stated before, this is a less than a thickness of a paper. This is basically a half a sheet of paper that's been torn off the cover and is adhered here in these areas. What I'd like to do is just leave that behind, and I'm going to go ahead and separate the cover from this first wrap. So we're still on for pursuing our first goal, which is removing this and reincorporating it into the cover. But I don't, all of the adhesion is occurring between this first wrap and these tiny fragments right now. I don't need to keep the cover in this aqueous bath, and I'd like to limit the total exposure in the aqueous bath of that cover. So what I'm going to do now, these should be separated. This one should move freely. Yep, this one moves freely with respect to the cover now. So we've accomplished our main goal with this aqueous bath here, and that we've been able to separate them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some more water. I'm just going to pour water over this to kind of float the pages a little bit. And then I'm going to slide a layer of Ramee paper between them so that I can safely separate these two. And then I'm going to go ahead and start drying this cover because I want to limit the total amount of time. It has such beautiful inks. I don't want to create any undue washing out of those inks. And we've used very mild solutions here, but I just want to limit that. So let me get some materials to do that step, and I'll be right back. All right, this is just half a liter of warm water. It's sudsy because I just used the same container. And so some of that Triton X100 is obviously still in there. And I'm just doing that to float the pages a little bit. And now I have another sheet of Ramee paper. I'm going to wet that. And now we're just going to very gently slide this page onto our Ramee paper. There we go. And so now we have a sandwich. We have Ramee paper on the very bottom, and then we have our cover, and we have our first wrap. I'm going to want to work on this first wrap with it open, and so severely rolled that it really wants to stick together. Let's see if we can get, there we go, we got a little bit of water between them. And I can open this wrap up now. And then I'm going to do one more layer of Ramee paper on top of here so that I can easily and safely flip this one, because the glued paper you can see is in this area, but on the reverse now of that page. So here's another sheet of Ramee. Beautiful. All right, I'm going to get the cover out of this solution and start drying it. And then I'm going to leave this inner wrap wet because we're going to continue to work on that. So what I'm going to do is take this whole tray right now and pour this solution off. This is why I prefer using these photo trays. In addition to being having a lot of surface area and having this low edge where it's easy to work, they have this corner which is easy to just pour the solution off. So I'm going to do that right now. All right, I'm back. The tray has been relieved of its aqueous solution, and we have Ramee paper, our first wrap, another layer of Ramee paper, then our cover, then the bottom piece of Ramee paper. I can now safely pick up all this paper, just like that, and transfer it wherever I need to. Protected by the Ramee. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove this top piece of Ramee with this first wrap. I'm just going to make sure that the paper stays with the Ramee. I'm going to put that back in the tray. Now we have the cover here. This is what the tray looks like. And I can put another layer of Ramee over that. I can continue to soak this and try to work on these fragments. But what I'd like to do now with the cover, and you can see we've got a couple issues here. It's gone ahead and split, which is fine. We were going to repair this whole spine anyway during our mending process. It was split at least up to here. This paper was very weak, so not surprising. I also have a little piece here that's folded over. I'd like to unfold that so we can start to get things relatively flat and where we want them ultimately. So I'm going to deal with that immediately. I wonder if I want to float this whole thing again, just to flip that over with and make sure that I don't damage it. Maybe I do. Maybe I do want to float the whole thing one more time. Let's do that and then we'll dry it out. All right, I'm going to go ahead and lift the sandwich of Ramey. I have my photo development tray just off camera. There we go. This is just warm tap water, about 1 liter. I'm going to work any air bubbles out. Very good. All right, and then I'm just gonna find my top layer of Ramey paper and peel it back slowly. And I'm gonna flip this paper gently. I don't care that these pages are not perfectly aligned at the moment. I really just want them flat. I think that was the only area where we had a flap that was in the wrong place. So I'm now going to pour this water off. And then I'm going to take this Ramey sandwich and I'm going to put 2 pieces of paper towel, then the Ramey sandwich, then 2 more pieces of paper towel. Then I'm going to put a piece of granite over it. And I'm going to leave that for about 5 minutes. I'm going to swap paper towels out, do about 20 minutes, swap paper towels out, do about an hour, swap them out, do about 2 hours, and then maybe do overnight, and we'll have this page completely dried and ready for the next steps. All right, I've already placed some paper towel down, and here is our cover in the Ramey paper sandwich. I'm going to remove some of the wrinkles in the Ramey and try to get it centered on the paper towels. So that we can get it dried out. This is not the last time, I don't believe, that we will have this page wet. We're definitely going to mend it later. So we do not have to have this final right now in terms of final wash or final chemical solution or anything like that. This is essentially just the first step in getting this cover and that first wrap separated. Okay, I'm going to put 2 paper towels on top of this. And then I'm going to put a weight. This is just a piece of granite countertop that I salvaged from a home improvement job. And I cut to the correct dimensions and polished so we could use it for our project. Next episode, we'll deal with that inner wrap and those little pieces of paper that are still stuck there. I hope you enjoyed this video on comic book conservation and wet cleaning, de-acidification, and working on glue removal. The photo tray, rame paper, most of the chemicals I used today are available from Amazon in the links below if you need any of them for your own conservation efforts. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know in the comments below, and tune in soon for the next episode in the process. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, take care of one another.